Morning, fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? Sure as hell ain't. Woke up to a damn back trying to kill me this morning. It's the 22nd of September 2023 for Friday, 3:33 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. To Zombie Weaver from Rosamond, California, who's sleep deprived and screwed up back right now. So I'm like, I, none of this, I like throbbing back time. I was going through the feeds and didn't go on YouTube. I was checking to see what the hell was happening in our town. Every third or fourth Thursday, we have a town meeting. Apparently, a long time ago, we had the usage of our place called the Hummel Hall, but I guess within this past year they shut down because of budget or something like that. So they keep it at the senior center to feed people, feed seniors. But anything else regarding civic matters or anything private matters, I mean, that's it. One particular bureaucratic department of Kern County took over the senior center. They'll take care of the seniors, but anything like holding a town hall, forget it. They had to find a new place when they did. They found it a little further away at another park where they could use the hall over there. And they held their meeting. They were hearing from community meters, a little bit of community leaders. I can't even talk right this morning. From the Kern County supervisors and from the sheriff's department of Kern. Not to mention fire department and Edwards Air Force Base to see how things are still helping out the town. And something got me piqued my interest last night before I went to sleep. Now, our own satellite office for the sheriff's department has been bouncing around from one building to another building. As long as I've been in this town, it's been about 10, 15 years, I think. They haven't had they had a permanent facility and they lost it. It was on a building. No, it was somewhere along Sierra Highway, and somehow the lease got changed or something like that. They had the facility, and it got turned into a pot farm. And then right after COVID passed, and Kern County had changed ordinances around, there have been a lot of pot farms and a lot of distributary places got shut down. And they bounced from one building to another building to another building to another building. They never been able to find a permanent building. I thought they had along Sierra, but that's no longer available. So they took over a water building of sorts that deals with the town's bills regarding water usage, especially when it comes for homes and trailer homes, but nothing about the apartment buildings. And everything else gets to be dealt with through this community resource building. And this community resource building, the old building, turned out to be another temporary sheriff's department. And they had another building used for the water building. But they just don't have the facilities necessary. Kern County had been promising to have a permanent building for our law enforcement. The thing is, with the law enforcement we have, it also depends upon how many personnel we're going to have stationed over here. And quite frankly, I've lost information and account of how many people permanently we have stationed here to take care of and service over 20 to nearly 30, somewhere in between, depending upon the census data, thousands of people in this town, spread out laterally along Rosamond Boulevard. We have a border, a southern border of Avenue A, and that's the southern border because that goes into LA County territory. We can expand as far as maybe 100th, 120th, 30th, 40th, 50th, all the way up to the edge of the mountain ranges. And as for the northern territory, we also have mountain ranges, so we are crammed. But we still have open space for solar panels to be put up in different areas. And we have lots of windmill farms and turbines along the mountain ranges that we have. There's still some desert area out there to be useful for either uh, home usage or commercial usage. And they're still scrambling where they want to put more stores out if they actually get more. And the only places they can think about is closer to town or actually in town. And some of the track they still have regarding the commercial usage that's still there. They want to bring in more retail places so we have more retail jobs. That's a good thing right there. But as for law enforcement, I mean, shit, it's like, okay, try thinking about this one. If I'm going to be using this Old West analogy here, let's just say that there have been prospectors and they see this yellow, shiny stuff. It's not fool's gold, it's not pyrite. It's actual gold or actual silver. So they would go crazy over it. And they would mine out like crazy and then tell people, hey, we got gold, we got silver here. We need places to trade. Okay, you build up trading posts. You build up hotels, entertainment, and everything else. But you forget to put the sheriff's department in there. You forget to put law and order because everything else is becoming more and more chaotic out there. And pretty shortly, you've got a town full of people with a valuable substance that's the revenue generator for your place. But you don't have law and order to keep things regulated and orderly and make sure that there's no trouble. You got all the damn resources you need. You can sleep, you can drink, you can eat, you can gamble, you can shoot people. You can go out there and mine. Come back in town and do it all over again. Where's the law enforcement? Out in this town, when I came out here with me and my brother, a lot of videos on how. Usually the same story I keep saying. Right after my mama's death, and we were getting evicted out of a trailer, out of an apartment in Lancaster, California. We put them through the court system. We had legal help, representation from Los Angeles County. With an entity called BASTA, BASTA, very well known to help out tenants and clients, and actually tenants and stuff, regarding the rentals and stuff. And they helped negotiate a way for us out of the apartment, and we still used Ma's money, her life insurance, for a down payment on a trailer home. was about 2014, 2013, 2014, 2013 actually. So we got into a trailer home in about 2015. We lost the trailer home. We didn't have anything like pasta because Kern County, the legal system out here sucks regarding tenants and renters. They suck. We got homeless. We got into this apartment. And while we were out there, we were also learning more about the town having its own issues. Now, driving back and forth, well, we actually did have a functioning car before my brother and I killed it. Lack of car care, shall we say. We fill it up with gas, but kept forgetting to do the damn oil and water. We seized up the engine, turned it into a paperweight. But before we turned it into a paperweight, we actually were able to get in and out of town and see. And we noticed that this town actually had a sheriff's department. It actually had a building that said sheriff's department on it. It actually had a garage that housed their about 2 or 3 units. They actually had room in there for prisoners. Had a functioning sheriff's department, nearly on the edge of town. And in all the times we heard from other people saying that, well, they used to have a smaller sheriff's department here, but it was just a substation, and they allowed another station to handle the prisoners. It just came out of one particular smaller building until they actually had one built for them. And then somehow Kern County and Rosamond lost a lease or something like that because it got turned into a pot farm. And the sheriff's department were bouncing from place to place in this town. They couldn't really find a permanent building that they could call their own again. Currently, they reside in a building that used to handle their water resources and water bills of the entire town. They took it over the past year or two, and they still can't find a permanent place. So last night's meeting, when I was reading on social media on this one, they really got to put it on Zoom because people in this town really have to pay attention to what's going on inside this place. And there are more changes happening in this town than I figured on this one. Or last year or so, they lost public use, except if you're a senior, of this senior center that handled their public affairs. It'd be a meeting hall, but it's also an eating hall for the senior citizens' meals and a cooling center when needed. But they lost usage of this place. I mean, we used to have food giveaways until Salvation Army collapsed their operation here in Antelope Valley somewhere. And we used to have uh, help from the Salvation Army. Now I don't know where the hell we're going to get it from. We have churches taking over for the food giveaways and stuff. But we used to use the Hummel Hall. Now, we can't use the Hummel Hall anymore because it's mismanaged and taken over by another bureaucratic section of Kern County. And now they had to do I took over a building in one of our parks that's acted as a resource center now. Not for seniors, but just for the town meetings or anything else like that, or maybe gatherings or something. So they had it inside this building. And they were talking about getting another police station built permanent in this place. God, how long was it then? Almost 10 years? Longer than that, between 10 to 15 years since living in this town? And they still couldn't find a permanent place? They've been having this problem a lot longer, about 20 or 30 years maybe. And they still couldn't find a permanent place. Bunch of damn morons in this place, I swear to God. No wonder we have people moving out and other people moving into this town. The old guard's leaving, and now everything else is going hell in a handbasket. You got more chaos and graffiti around in this town. More robberies, more bad stuff happening. A lot of blame to go around. town's changed into something that they're still trying to struggle to hold on to identity here. But they're going to get 4 permanent deputies next year. Not this year. So basically, we got about 20 to 30K, and hardly, if we're lucky, maybe 1 or 2 deputies or 3 if we actually see them. We have 1 lone fire station having 4 engines. We finally got the 4th engine, I think, at the beginning of this year. We still have the firehouse. That's not going on because that's a permanent structure here. We have a private ambulance company through Hall's Ambulance Company here. And they have stationed 4 ambulances at all times if they're not being used. If they're being used, we're lucky enough to get maybe 1 or 2 to be used. And the fire engines are also paramedic trained, but they still require ambulance transportation for the serious ones going over to the local hospitals. The only emergency hospital we got is about 12, 15 miles away. Servicing 20 to nearly 30,000 if you look at the U.S. Census report for 2020. And you check out the community name of Rosamond, California. I'm a transplant. I got moved into this town because my brother and I were trying to find a cheap place to live to take care of our dog. Or what time we had 2 dogs. And we couldn't find any places out in LA County, not in Antelope Valley. Nowhere. Long ass waiting lists, and we didn't have the time to wait. That's why we got the trailer home, and we got scammed out of it. We've been in it about nearly a year and a half when we were fighting the changes that they were suckering people into. And we got booted. They'll recondition it, clean it up, and then do the thing all over again, and then act real nice. And no wonder they had a growing population of homeless going on. But through charity organizations such as Salvation Army and a veterans group they actually had out here, my brother and I finally got into this place. These days, I'm fighting a bug war. Cockroaches all over the damn place. I got no other place to go, so I'm stuck here. So, I got no other place to go. LA County doesn't want me. LA County doesn't have the places. They got more of a growing population of homeless. Lancaster and Palmdale have been fighting it like crazy throughout the years. Because of lack of resources that they actually have, but they actually have spaces to grow. They just don't have the facilities necessary. Of course, they can make these new fine homes out there. Developers can make new fine homes, but when it comes down for housing for the homeless, like maybe apartments or maybe even using motels for a time. No. They got the motels, but the motel guys are using it for their own businesses. So, and the people in the townies out there complain about the about the homeless. They better complain about it because they get a lot of people getting thrown out, can't afford to rent, or eminent domain or something else throws them into the streets. They have nowhere else to live. Temporary housing doesn't occur, so they're stuck on the streets. If they need to get the hell out of town, the gas is getting too damn expensive, so they're stuck. But people complain about them because they're homeless. Yeah, you gotta try it. It's no fun. See, that was the burr was getting up my ass when I was reading about my own little armpit of the Antelope Valley of Rosamond. I know a while ago I did a few videos concerning about how wonderful our town's reputation and everything else going on. And then I see the reality check and I'm thinking, I was out of my damn mind. And maybe at one point people kept thinking about the shining Camelot days of this town, but uh, that must have been about in the 50s and 60s maybe. Because after that, it went downhill. Prior before the COVID, we actually had pot farms being utilized all over the damn place. We had distributary places that grew their own stuff and distributed it. And we had them popped up in a lot of office buildings and, separate from anything else or next door to something else. They took over places left and right that no one else was trying to find new business for. We actually had a pub out here. It's been out here since what, 40s or 50s, 1940s or 50s. It was called Norm's Pub. And when the last owner, decided he was going to move out permanently, he left the empty building and it took out all the bar stuff out of it. So whatever landmark Rosamond had, lost. It lost it. People kept telling me what kind of a wonderful place this was. It had different businesses at different places. It used to be different. It was a good place to live. Well, I have to tell you, maybe some places actually had the Camelot because we actually were too damn young and stupid during the time. Didn't realize that things change. And when they do, things change for the worse. And then all hell breaks loose. Then what the hell are we supposed to do about it? I don't know. I don't know. Because I come into a town that's already struggling for its own identity or its own survival, trying to get more life support out of its own supervisors who are not bringing in the revenue or enough revenue to support a vast empire, and also having a worthless representative in government who only cared about his own political ambitions, that he was leaving this town high and dry, and not to mention the other desert communities. There's one community called California City that's still within the outskirts of Kern County that actually has its own law enforcement. It doesn't need to borrow sheriffs. It has its own police department because they've got their taxes paid that way, where they're supporting maybe a few sheriffs at a time, but maybe the population is not as dense as Rosamond is. Now, there's also Mojave, but they seem to be the center of the desert community out here for Kern, dealing with their own law. Well, actually, they're using California Highway Patrol and whatever deputies they have left to protect the courthouse for the desert. See, there's a courthouse out in Bakersfield, city of Bakersfield, that handles the Central Valley, but nothing out here for here. So I guess for maybe about 20 or 30 years, they actually had built a courthouse to handle everything in the Antelope Valley, or in the current section of it anyway. We just don't have the legal, actually we don't have the law enforcement out here necessary. And we only have one fire station to handle 20 to 30,000 people. Now, if I was going to compare this to LA County at least would have about 3 or 4 fire stations, maybe a paramedic outfit or two ready to go, and maybe about 2 or 3 substations of law enforcement to patrol. We haven't got that out here. Kern County's too damn cheap. So we're stuck with what we have. And the crime goes up. People are going to have to start, and unfortunately they probably already have, using weapons to protect the property. Once in a great while, or actually once in a while, almost turning out to be on a constant basis, is hearing gunshots, one or two, either to scare off the coyotes we still have out here or the various life forms, or maybe just to scare off a two-legged vermin that we actually have to protect themselves. I never liked guns in the first place, but it looks like I've got no choice when it comes down for the opinion on carry concealed to protect your place. I don't like the idea. I don't want the idea. My brother actually toyed around with the idea. He was comfortable with guns. I wasn't. He knew it. And we never got one. But he always talked about getting one. And on a property like this, they don't want guns. You can have cameras, you can have alarm systems, you can go through a protection service, but they won't have guns on this property. It's a private thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there was guns in the property. I don't know. I don't want to know. All I know is we had fireworks on a constant basis during summertime, and when they're testing things out, my dog hates it. But she's getting older, more senile, and she's not paying attention to it much. But anybody else younger, yeah, they're paying attention to it. And dealing with the neighbors who have this affinity for blowing things up. Management turns a blind eye to that one. Yeah, it's just a normal gripe and grumble about how this town is devolved and this area has devolved. What was supposed to be a safe haven is no longer. I keep seeing the markings from Lancaster and Palmdale, and not to mention from, if I'm going to say it, South Central LA. They're crouched out here in the outskirts because this place doesn't seem to care as much about safety or anything else. Hell, they can get rid of your damn graffiti if you post it out there saying, I got graffiti, so who do I contact? Okay, so we get the graffiti taken care of. And the next morning, it's up on there again. So we know the gangs are here. They're here. They're not traveling. They're already encamped. They're already encamped. And I was fairly convinced in my particular apartment complex we actually had them. But in our sister apartment, we do. In our sister complex, we have. And probably in the other trailer homes as well that we've actually had surrounding. If they're abandoned, they're gang territory now. But we just hadn't seen them patrolling around. But they made their presence known by the graffiti, the taggers, the advertisers for them. Yeah, it's getting out there prevalent. On the west side of Rosamond, west side of the freeway actually, of the 14. It would terrify the lot of them to have that kind of activity, and yet they report that they actually have that kind of activity going on. Maybe a few crazy people or homeless people they got an issue with, or the so-called Karens out there. Out here on the east side, we just haven't heard them, but they're here. That effective life to live through and survive. So basically, that's the status of the town. There are areas that they actually did want to develop, but they hadn't. We got markers out there saying that there are places out here that we could actually have development, and they just haven't. Most of the activities happening in the west side. Well, my burger and my beef was last night is 4 deputies for permanent for about 20 or 30,000 people. How many deputies did we have originally? Did we still have them? Last time I heard there was either 6 or 9 or something like that. Even if we actually had 20, That'll be a magic number right there, having 20 deputies patrolling around for 20 to 30,000 people. We don't even see them out here unless there's something major happening. If there's parole violations happening, or maybe if there's some major crime happening, maybe somebody actually killed another person, his dead body. Oh, now we get the publicity for it. If there's going to be a chase through the town from outside, oh, there goes the deputies. We'll have that. Or maybe if we have a barricaded suspect at one time, we'll maybe drain out half of Kern County's sheriff's department just to be over here to have fun with this one. After that, nothing. But this is Kern. LA County was always stretching its thin lines. You really wanted to move out to Antelope Valley to have a better neighborhood? Boy, were they suckered in. Because over the past 30 to 40 years, they've all been mutating into worst areas of LA County and LA City. They may have been golden age where the crime was less because they had less people, but they actually had stuff out here. Those days are gone in the Antelope Valley. Those days are gone.